Welcome back to Tiny Grams Games, and I'm here with another Star Wars Destiny video. And today we got big, earth-shattering news. That's right, FFG has laid out not only what's going to happen in the near future, but what's going to happen in the distant future as well for Star Wars Destiny, the collectible dice card awesomeness game. Alright, so first things, it says that Spirit of Rebellion is going to be released in May, which means not going to be legal for Worlds if it actually releases in May. So that's kind of interesting. It looks like we won't have that for Worlds. That helps somebody like me who really wants to dial in and really understand a set. So I now know I should be playtesting this current set of Awakenings for Worlds and get ready for Spirit of Rebellion coming out of Worlds. Okay, that's one piece of information. Next piece of information is that Awakenings will indeed get a reprint. But it is as people had thought, and what the rumor was, it will just be a small reprint in June. The exact words they use are a final limited print run. Not sure quite what that means, but let's talk about what that means for you, the Star Wars Destiny player. If you haven't been able to find a box yet, and you want into the game, I'm going to go out on a limb, this may be wrong, but I'm going to say it's safe to assume you will not get any boxes from the limited print run. My theory here is that speculators are going to say, final limited print run for a set that's already in high demand? Yeah, there's some money there. And my assumption is that speculators who have been vigilantly calling around and snapping up all the product they can are probably going to be able to snap it up before you can. You'll probably be able to go to a local shop. They'll get their one box in. They'll limit it to 6 packs per customer, and you'll get 6 packs. But probably not what you wanted to hear. So bottom line there is if you really want in and you really want Awakenings, I mean, you're probably going to have to pay some money for a set. Or what I would probably do is just get Spirit of Rebellion and see. Maybe Spirit of Rebellion will be so pushed that most of the Awakenings cards won't be as relevant, other than obvious things like Holocrons and maybe Holdout Blasters. Spoiler alert here, Holocron is going to go through the roof, by the way. Buy it now. But after Spirit of Rebellion, we're going to get a better idea of the values for Awakenings, but my guess is the really good cards are going to go up in price rather than down, and are pretty much going to stay there until they get replaced by better cards from future sets, or there is finally rotation. So if you were hoping that in June you were going to snap up some Awakenings, I hate to burst your bubble, it doesn't look all that likely. Alright, well, let's move on to what's the really big news, and that is the future of the game. So FFG has announced that there's going to be one more expansion this year, and then after that expansion they'll move on to a new system where each year there'll be one base set or a sort of core set, kind of like Awakenings was supposed to be for this set, and that will stay in print, quote, most of the year if they're able to, and then there'll be 2 other expansions that come out with it. So the plus side of all of this is FFG does seem to have sat down in a meeting and said, what are we going to do? Like, how are we going to handle this? Obviously everyone wants our product. How are we going to handle this? Now the expansions are all going to be one printing only. They're going to come out in waves and not just going to dump it all at once, but they're only going to print one set of it, and when it's gone, it's gone. And so this is really interesting. If they print a huge amount, it's going to be fine and possibly problematic for them. They may end up with too much. If they print a small safe amount, it doesn't give the game room to grow. And so FFG with this system has put themselves in a really weird and awkward spot of having to be really good at predicting. And we saw they were really terrible at predicting with Awakenings. Now, I will give them a pass there and say it wasn't their fault necessarily. People were Johnny-come-latelys and were like, no, we don't want to pre-order anything. No way, that game looks lame. Oh my god, I want 1,000 boxes! And you can't predict that. But what really makes it hard to do is grow if you're having to go off of predictions. Like I thought, and we saw this, evidence for this, that Destiny could be the number 4 game after Magic, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh! I think it was the quarter 4 numbers or the quarter 3 numbers last year showed that this was indeed the case. However, that's a new hot game that happens quite a bit, especially since it was kind of rare. Everyone wanted it. So the question is going to be moving forward, can they hold on to that number 4 for a while and maybe, just maybe, claw up a little way? They're not going to be Magic. That's not really realistic. But can they move to 3 or 2? And saying we're only going to do 1 print run per expansion period puts them in a real bind of they better be amazing at predicting. And that's not easy to do. Okay. The real problem with this article from my perspective is they use words like replace when they say with the next base set we will be replacing the old starter decks with the new starter decks. Well, what does that mean? Does it mean that the old starter decks are still going to be legal and that now Force Throw becomes impossible to find for newer players? Does it mean that that is the point where there is rotation? Anytime you lay out a system like this with your entire future in it, and it's as interesting as this one is, where it says stuff is going to be out of print immediately, you really need to couple that, in my opinion, with a rotation system. What is going to happen? So let's say, since there isn't a rotation system, now we have to speculate. FFG likes to do about 5 years of rotation. I think they'll realize that is not going to work for a CCG with out-of-print material. So let's say they go 3 years, which I think would be a mistake. I think that's too long with out-of-print stuff. Let's say they do, and there is 2 base expansions and a core set each year. So as we go into the 3rd year, by the end of the 3rd year, we'll have the 2 first year, the 2 second year, and 1 of the 3rd year expansions that will be out of print. That's 5, and we'll have 2 core sets out of print. That is 7 out of print sets before rotation actually happens. That is a lot of out of print legal material. Now, on the one hand, it doesn't matter at all if your target audience is just casual players that are playing an approachable, accessible game and want to roll dice. That's fine, right? It doesn't matter how many out of print sets there are. But if you are hoping to capture sort of the serious collectible card game market share, that doesn't seem tenable to me, to have 7 out of print sets so that, you know, a new player comes in the game and he's like, all right, this game looks really cool. What does the meta deck look like? Well, we've really settled down on these 3 decks, and because there are 7 out of print sets involved, you know, you really want the original Darth Vader, which had dropped quite a bit, but now that he's the meta again and he is 7 out of print sets old and you literally cannot find him, he's a lot of money and the deck costs $1,200, right? We really don't want to be in a situation like that, I don't think, and it makes it very hard to grow a game when that is a situation. I don't know of a CCG that has 7 out of print legal cycles or whatever in their game. I know Magic doesn't. Obviously, you can't really compare yourself to Magic because that's the gold standard. They've been doing it right forever. But I don't know how Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh do it. I don't know how many sets are out of print. I would be very surprised if it's that large of a number. If it is, and they're successful, then okay, maybe there's no reason to worry. But I, for one, am definitely at least a little worried that this system may lead to real serious problems. We saw this a lot even in other LCGs where you could buy the product. Once there is so much product that is legal, people start to go, oh, wow, it's a big barrier for entry. I have to get all that stuff. And on the plus side here, you could just buy singles instead of having to buy all that stuff. But if the singles have been out of print forever and cost a fortune, it's a real barrier for people to enter. So really what I think needs to happen is FFG needs to come forward and say, this is our rotation plan. If you're going to give us your plan for the future, you can't give us half of the plan. It makes it look like you don't have the other half of the plan, which is always terrifying to your player base. So if you do have the other half of the plan, FFG, I implore you, let us know what the other half of the plan. Don't make it look like you just winged this out there, and then we're like, oh no, we didn't even think about the fact that there'll be 7 out of print sets. Let us know you have been thinking about it, and let me know what you think of this projected schedule, what you think of this plan. Do you like the plan? Do you see problems with the plan? What do you think moving forward? And to those of you who wanted more Awakenings, I'm truly, truly sorry. So I'll see you next time on Tiny Grimes Games.